Hey guys, how's it going? Christopher Michael here. So, I decided that I wanted to start doing some movie reviews. This is my first one, I guess. So, forgive me for, any kind of audio mess ups or video quality stuff. But I'm doing this anyway, just because I've always wanted to do it. I wanted to do my review on the Eternals. It's like 3 weeks since the Eternals has been out, and I decided to just go ahead and make this review. I don't want this to be like too long, so it's only gonna be like a few minutes, like a few minutes, like a few minutes. My first review ever, really. If you haven't seen the movie already, what are you doing? Furthermore, if you don't want any spoilers, what are you doing on a movie review video? Uh, but let's go ahead and get down into it. So, The Eternals is like the latest, installment in the MCU. There's some good and there's some bad. So let's start with the good stuff. First thing, visuals are amazing. That's something Marvel's always been good at. They're great with CG, they're great with, giant kind of landscapes and beautiful colors, vibrant kind of things, and Eternals kind of steps that up even more, I'll say.
Awesome.
I think the lore behind Eternals is amazing. The fact that they, recognize the Eternals have been here 7,000 something years. The fact that Babylon was tied to the Eternals, I really, really liked. Babylon is this, it's a real place, but it's got so much, like, kind of mythology behind it. There's so much kind of like this supernatural aspect behind it. So I think it's really cool that Babylon was tied to the Eternals. Trying to protect humanity from the deviants. They built this whole city. They parked their jet plane spaceship domo there. The fact that the Celestials are now a part of this thing. I don't even know what to do with that kind of information, honestly. Like, if you're not very well versed in comics, just like look up YouTube channel, Comics Explained. Put yourself part of the Rob Core. Shout outs to you, Rob. He really great channel, really extensive knowledge on comics and characters. And if you know the Eternals, then you just know that there's a lot. I also really like the fact that, like, we all know the MCU finds ways to adapt things and they change certain aspects. And I've never really been too opposed to the changes. There's some changes where it's like, what? Druig's my favorite character. I can't front on that. And it's weird because I thought he was going to be just a straight up asshole at first. And don't get me wrong, he is a straight up asshole. But there's something there. There's something in him. Something in him. Anyway, Druig's still my favorite. Um, the actor Barry Cogan, he did amazing. I feel like he added this complexity to Druig that I feel like none of the other Eternals had. I don't feel like any of the other Eternals had the kind of complexity as a character that Druig had. Speaking of Druig, Drakari Forever, I find their dynamic to be amazing. Probably the best dynamic out of the entire Eternals cast. Also, Thena and Gilgamesh, I've been calling them Thenamesh. Maybe we can call them Gilga? Geetha? Gina. Let's go with Thenamesh. I'm gonna call him Thenamesh. I like that dynamic as well. Kumail Nanjiani is super funny, and I love Karun. Like, seriously, Kingo and Karun partner goals by far. Karun is like the greatest ride or die. He was literally willing to ride until he died. We're going to get into the bad things. Acting's a little wonky. It's a little, it's just a little off. And I don't feel like it's so much the actor's fault. I mean, we have some pretty big names in there. But there's this kind of Power Rangers feel to the Eternals. You know, like when they they all step out on that cliff in their different colored uniforms, and it just reminded me of like Megaforce and like all the Power Rangers that, just standing there in like this weird triangle shape. I get it, but anyway, it's a very plot-driven story, and because it's very plot-driven, some of the characters kind of just fall off. They just really fall off. But Makari really didn't have much to do in this film until the very end. there's a part of me that just kind of feels like, well, what were they gonna do with her? But it's like, I don't know, y'all figure it out. I just feel like for her to be as attached to my favorite, there should have been more. Fucking Icarus, right? God, Icarus. By the way, I think we should talk about. There's a whole like moment where the Eternals are talking about trying to save the planet, save the entire world, and Kingo's like, I don't know, should we? Icarus doesn't want to do it. Like, you've been the last century maybe doing like acting and shit, like just having your own agency by yourself. Like, you've been doing your own thing. You got Karun, you adopted a child essentially. But when it comes time to save this planet that you've been just profiting off of, I guess, with your movies and stuff, when it comes time to save it, you're like, fuck it. With Karun right there, he has to sit there and listen to these immortal beings be like, well, I guess it's all going. Why did y'all talk about this in front of him? Like, tangent. But again, it's very plot driven, not character driven. So you have these agents without agency. I get that that's like in the realm of the Eternals, but as far as like a movie goes, it really just makes everything seem passive, and it makes a lot of the dynamics just fall flat on their faces. I feel like Sprite's the only character that gets an arc. Seriously. Sprite's the only one that really goes through anything, and it's barely. Structure is pretty straightforward. There's no subtext, really. I don't feel like everybody says exactly what they mean, and since it's very plot driven, everything just happens and happens and happens. There's nothing to wonder about. They're flashing back and forth between the past and the present, and the past has its own story that kind of lays out what these people have been doing. So I'm gonna bring this to a close. If you like this video, please like, comment. Let me know if you think my review is, on point, or if you think my review is absolute trash. I'll probably take a look at all of those sides. I won't. I'm not gonna take them. Like, comment, help out the YouTube algorithm. Thanks for tuning in to my very first review. Enjoy yourselves. Enjoy life. Give yourself some credit.